Hello viewers, we are Nottingham University is the Kenyan Student Conference 2019, and today the theme is empowering the youth to transform Kenya. We have seen a lot of young people from different universities in the United Kingdom gathering here today so they can listen from the Kenyan government, the Kenya High Commission. We had CS Amina Mohammed, who's been the CS of education, now going into sports, and she was talking passionately about how the young people can actually be the one going to Kenya to transform Kenya. So today, let's hear from this student. What is their take? What problems are they having before they can access those needed facility of going to Kenya and actually transforming Kenya? So, student conference in Nottingham University. Let's hear what the young people have to say.
So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, compatriots, I am truly grateful for this opportunity to join you for this third Kenyan Students Conference. I want to thank the High Commissioner and his team at the UK High Commission for facilitating this conference. I also thank the Nottingham University for graciously hosting this year's conference, and of course I cannot forget to thank all of you for finding time to be here. I was gratified to learn that this conference has convened under the theme Empowering Youth, Transforming Kenya. It captures a commitment that continues to inform a wide range of policies our government is pursuing at this specific moment. I was also encouraged to learn that the conference seeks to provide students with an opportunity to deliberate on an after-university strategy, specifically involving reflection on employment, self-employment, and the transition back to our country and into the workplace. This forward thinking is critically important as you prepare to transition into a dynamic work environment that demands high emotional, social, intellectual, and planning competencies. As a government, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate that the transition from college to the workplace presents an enormous challenge for most students. It did for all of us when we undertook that transition. In many instances, graduates have no idea about job opportunities that are available in the market. Many of them also have no contacts in industry and no one to offer guidance. It's for this reason that last year, the Ministry of Education commenced the process of establishing the Office of Career Services in every institution of higher learning in our country. The core responsibilities of that office include partnering with industry to provide job opportunities for students, linking them with the private and public sectors, as well as offering entrepreneurial training, which is essential for gainful self-employment. We have made good progress in this direction, and most of our universities are now offering professional training as well as career guidance to their students. You're privileged to study in one of the most dynamic economies in the world today and have first-hand experience about the proper functioning of the Office of Career Services in your various institutions of learning. I urge you to provide insights to our visiting Vice-Chancellors on practical ways to improve this crucial office and to donate time when you return home to deepen its operation and utility to your fellow students. I've realized in the course of my interactions, both at the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Education, that many members of our diaspora do not have adequate and accurate information about the situation in their home countries. This is partly because of the distance, but also exposure to inaccuracies in media reports and the lack of structured channels of communication between government and the diaspora. It's for this reason, and I think many of you will recall, that at Foreign Affairs we inaugurated a web portal. The portal was intended to serve as a platform for regular consultation between the diaspora and government departments and agencies. as well as between the diaspora and the private sector, including financial service providers. The portal provided an ideal forum for enlightening Kenyans on opportunities available in the country and how to go about them, including investment opportunities. By the time I left the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the process of rolling out phase 2 of the online one-stop diaspora Huduma web portal was in the pipeline. It's my hope that you will all make use of this portal to get all the information that you need. Regarding the subject of empowering the youth, we recognize that Kenya is witnessing a massive youth bulge. It's estimated that by 2030 our population will reach 65 million, and by 2050 we will be 85 million strong. These additional young bodies that will be entering the labor market need jobs, and that means that we need to generate about 1 million jobs every year. An additional 1 million suffer the fate of school malfunction by falling off the schooling system, a situation that we have all dedicated a lot of time to address. And that's why you have Dr. Langatia, who is the CEO of the Technical and Vocational Training Authority. Now, while improving, the economy has not expanded sufficiently enough to generate jobs for the sheer numbers of youth. We are therefore experiencing a job deficit. Yet we recognize that the future of our country is embodied in the youth, and you've heard that said here several times. We must therefore cater to the youth by empowering them with skills and with knowledge, as well as opportunities to earn a livelihood while building our country. To tackle this, and from the point of view of education, we are focusing on several critical steps to ensure that our youth develop clear career pathways that will generate decent livelihoods while contributing to the overall transformation of our country. First, we have initiated measures to enhance youth employability by addressing the skills mismatch between education and labor market needs. This has involved the provision of training and work experience relevant to market needs both in the formal and informal sectors. This is the focus of our new curriculum to ensure we offer quality and relevant education. The second step, ladies and gentlemen, is supporting job creation by preparing learners for self-employment. And while I'm there, I was told to remind you that you must continue tweeting, and His Excellency, the High Commissioner, gave me the hashtag, and it's at KSConf19. And please tag the handles of the Kenya High Commission, UK. Also tag the High Commissioner himself at M. Esipisu, and you can also tag the Ministry of Education. And so, the second step is supporting job creation by preparing our learners for self-employment, which also includes training in entrepreneurship. We have, in this regard, rolled out a major vocational and technical training program in the country that is modeled on the dual training and employment models that are practiced in Germany, in Finland, in Switzerland, and other progressive skills jurisdictions. The third step seeks to enhance access to the labor market and make sure that we have the necessary information provided to the youth. And so market information that is needed to guide learning institutions, as well as students regarding career opportunities in the market. Finally, we recognize that in the not too distant future, and as artificial intelligence and machine learning occupy center stage, human labor will be cannibalized by technologies. These technologies will have the capacity to outperform people in nearly every job function. Our education system must therefore prepare students for this eventuality. It's very important for you to think about this for the following reason, and that is that if artificial intelligence will transform the future of work in your lifetime, you must be sure which skills you need when we, as humans, can no longer compete with intelligent machines. As a government, we are preparing students for these eventualities by placing emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects, computer science, entrepreneurship, which we believe will enable students to cope in an increasingly AI-driven world. And at this juncture, I just want to again refer to one of the youngest women scientists that we have, and who is the Dean of Pure Science at, stand up again. Yeah, and so the idea is to encourage women to move into that space. We are planning, together with her, to have a conference of young women in science in Nairobi, and any of you who's interested, please let her know, because we intend to do that in the very near future. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and you may please be seated. In conclusion, and regarding collaborations in research and fellowship, we are aware that we do not have sufficient resources, I think you all know that, to adequately fund research programs. And the one thing that we did last year was to actually increase the amount of funding that is made available to our National Research Fund. So now it has a decent amount of 3 billion, which we hope will be used for both basic research, but more importantly, I think applied research that can then be taken to incubation and to market. But because we do not have these resources available to us, we have started collaborating with institutions around the world, where new technologies and other innovations are the product of this type of partnerships, and especially collaborations with the private sector and, as I said, other universities across our borders. This realization that we must collaborate and we must partner with others in order to move research forward inspired the first of its kind initiative that brought Kenyan and UK VCs and provosts to the table yesterday in London to deliberate on areas of mutual interest. We had an extremely interesting roundtable, and I think that the VCs who are here will be able to talk about that a little more later on. And I think that around that table there was a realization that universities of the future will thrive on collaborative expansion and research deepening. These two components will allow universities to restore their original mandates as the spring wells of knowledge and of development. It's estimated, ladies and gentlemen, that university partnerships driven by advances in automation, digitization of information, unparalleled access to data, and democratization of knowledge have contributed $1.3 trillion to the US gross industrial output since 1995. 4.3 million jobs, 380,000 inventions, and 11,000 university-supported startups, growing the innovation economy by unprecedented bounds. And Professor spoke about what this did for Ireland. I'm proud to report that during the visit that we had, major milestones with a long-term positive effect to both countries, university education, research, innovation, science, and technology were achieved. United Kingdom and Kenyan universities agreed to collaborate in conducting joint research, in student and faculty exchange, in co-supervising students, in mobilizing resources for capacity building of Kenyan universities, training of Kenyan academic leaders, as well as infrastructural support for Kenyan universities. Additionally, Kenyan and UK universities will develop double degree programs that will provide the opportunity to students to study partly in Kenya and partly in the UK, eventually graduating with double degrees from both institutions. Tupigie makofi. One of the most outstanding achievements of our roundtable discussions yesterday was the offer by UK universities to support the establishment of a doctoral training center in the built environment in Kenya. And I can see somebody is extremely happy about that. This center will be dedicated to training graduate students in various programs geared towards supporting the realization of our housing pillar of the Big Four agenda of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. The same model can work between individual student collaborations. Some of the most illuminating discoveries that changed the course of history were the result of university education partnerships. The story of Google is illustrative. Larry and Page and Sergey Brin met when Brin, a student in Stanford, and I don't want to give you that story, you probably know it better than I do, gave Page a tour of the campus. They started the company that would become Google as a way to experiment with search algorithms. This company has grown, and you know how well it has grown. And it has altered the way that we access, we consume, we share, and we store information. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud of the individual Kenyan scholars and professionals based here, some of who I met in London yesterday, and many of who are here with us today. They have been at a personal level engaged in opening up opportunities for collaboration, people-to-people exchange, research, financial and infrastructural support to our citizens and our country. It's my hope that your deliberations in this conference will add and help to advance this institutional and partnerships agenda that we started yesterday. Reflecting on the thoughts of Charles Darwin and Oliver Wendell, I would like to say the following, and these are quotations from them. It's the long history of humankind and animal kind too, that those who learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. Charles Darwin. Many ideas grow better when transplanted into another mind than the one where they sprang up. That's Oliver Wendell Holmes. I'm going to conclude by just giving you a short, history of myself. And I hope that that will be a source of encouragement, especially to the ladies. Sorry about that, but my focus has really of late been our ladies. And I think many of you have also heard this before, I grew up in a very humble home. For 2 years of my teenage years, I actually could not walk because I was extremely ill. And at that point, we actually did not think that I would survive for long. Anyway, survive I did. And I think for me, the lesson then was that nothing was impossible, that everything is achievable. And it doesn't really matter what gender you belong to. That if you actually work hard enough, and if you're determined and focused and committed to the objective that you set for yourself, that you'll actually achieve it. Now, I can tell you that I did not set out to become a cabinet secretary in any form, shape, or size. But I did set out to become a lawyer. And after I finished my studies, and I studied outside, so exposure, I believe very strongly in it because it allows you to compete. It also teaches you how to compete in not just your own environment, but in a global environment. And so I did my studies all over the place, including here in the UK at Oxford. Finished and decided that I actually did not want to practice law. For many reasons, I will not go into those today. I decided that what I wanted to do the most was to negotiate, draft agreements, and make sure that we had sufficient, well-trained, and well-exposed negotiators for the country. And so that's what I did. Joined the Ministry of Local Government first and negotiated World Bank projects. And at that time, then the head of the ministry was there, said, no, you really wasted. You cannot just negotiate World Bank agreements and projects. You have to move to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so that's what I did in 1986. Moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was probably one of the youngest lawyers in the legal department of the ministry. And refused actually to get posted out of the country for the first 5 years, which proved to be the best thing that I did, because it allowed me to get to understand the civil service, but also to network and have support within the civil service even before I left the country. And then I did leave eventually to Geneva and then to New York. And I think that everything that had happened to me prepared me for that. And so when I go to Geneva, my single objective was to make sure that I was the best negotiator, the best diplomat that Kenya had ever had in Geneva. Second to one ambassador who was there before me. And I think that I did a decent job, right? Because I was able to negotiate in all the institutions, all of them that existed in Geneva at that time. I chaired all their bodies. It took a lot of work and almost no sleep. But it was a challenge that I had given myself. Right? And I did it very, very clear-mindedly, with my eyes wide open, and said, this is what I want to do, and I don't want to be a mediocre diplomat. That's really the message. You can't be a mediocre anything. You shouldn't be a mediocre anything. Once you set your goal, once you know what your objective is, go for it. And I know that nothing will stop you, because you actually are the generation that is going to save our continent. I've said that before. I believe that to be true, because you're the generation that is equal to everybody in that generation across the world. They're not better and they're not worse. Right? And what it will take is what it took all of us, what it took Honorable Kimunya, what it took the High Commissioner, what it took the VCs who are seated here, the scientists who are here. It takes hard work, and a lot of hard work, and more hard work. Without that, sorry, but it's mediocrity. Because you need to be better than others. You need to do it better. And I think you also know this to be true, that the harshest critics are your peers, right? Because everybody else is very kind and generous and supportive. Your peers are really harsh critics because they're competing with you, right? And so when you actually get to that place, and it's your peers who are electing you, and it's your peers who are selecting you, and it's your peers who are appointing you, then you know that you're in a good place. Yeah? And you know, I did that throughout my life because I actually knew that I'd been given a second chance, right, to live and do some amazing stuff. And I hope that we'll continue talking to each other, we'll continue engaging each other, so that we can, it's about mentoring each other also, and talking about each other's experiences, right? And understanding that there's nothing unique. I am not unique, I was never unique, neither are you. The challenges you go through, everybody has gone through, that has been through school. So there's nothing unique, right? So deal with it. Handle it well. That's going to be your stepping stone. Yeah? I know that our time is limited, but I want to give you a challenge, and it's to ask for your help. I need your help. For all the Kenyans who are seated in here today. Fortunately, Fortunately, I've been taken to a ministry that I think will make a really huge contribution. So I want you to help me build a nation. And not a group of tribes that will never make it on their own, that continuously pulls us down. But a nation, one of all of us, making amazing contributions, because each one of us has that task, has that responsibility and that duty to the nation. I want you to stop thinking of yourselves as belonging to a small group, refusing to be put in a box. If you do that, you'll have made the contribution that many have made before you, and some have sacrificed their lives for. Don't accept to be put in a box. Not a Kamba box, not a Kikuyu box, not a Borana box, not a Luo box, right? Not a Kisi box. You are bigger than that. God put you in that territory for a purpose. He did not tear you apart, right? Otherwise, we may as well have 47 countries, right? Because we actually managed to get counties that are tribal. We're really geniuses, you know? We truly are. Yeah? So anybody who still thinks that they can live in this century and think as if they still are in a cave, I have news for you. The children of Kenya have rejected that, will continue to reject it. In an attempt to want to be detribalized, many of them have even refused to talk in their languages, in their tribal languages. And you know that's true, right? Yeah? Yeah, so I believe that it's wonderful to speak your language. But if it's the one cause of division in our country, then we should all reject that. If it's going to be a source of strength, beautiful diversity, then of course we should embrace it. But my message to all of you is it really doesn't matter how much you achieve as a Kenyan, if at the end of the day you still go back to a cave and call yourself by your tribal whatever, then you'd have failed. You'd have failed your country now, and you'd have failed it in the future, and you'd have set a terrible example. I am not proud of the example that we set. Please don't make the same mistakes, right? Don't be your brothers and sisters' keeper. Love each other, because we all have to live in that small little country, right? Develop it, grow it, and transform it. And refuse to be divided, whether it's during a political season or any other season. Because it's also true that it becomes much deeper, right, 1 year before the elections than it is during any other normal time. So that's my message to you today. I promise that we will continue supporting you. I would also like to hear about the challenges that you face and see if there's anything that we can do about them. But now you actually have a structure that Richard and Dorothy, right, will be in charge of. A structure that will ensure that some of you, when you finish your undergrads, can actually get support for your master's programs. We've agreed with the VCs from the UK that we met that some master's and doctorate, right, scholarships will be made available to Kenyan students. Your Kenyan students, so there are some of you here and there are some in Nairobi, and we're going to make sure that we share everything equitably. So work hard so that you're deserving of that special support that the British universities will be making available to all of us. Thank you very, very much. I'm delighted to have been here. And again, I wish all the ladies a wonderful International Women's Week.